So let me introduce our panelists for this evening. We've been trying to find people from very different, let's say, directions and with different interests who can talk about hamburgers or burgers in Warsaw from various perspectives. And I hope that this will generate an interesting discussion. Let me start with Aleksander Baran. He's the creator and owner of Solid 44, one of Warsaw gastronomic landmarks. It's food and games. He learned the secrets of cooking in Scotland and Caribbean, and I hope we'll profit from this international perspective in a second during our discussion. And he was also the chef at Nowy Wspaniały Świat, which I didn't know, and now I really appreciate. I remember a company suit that I really, really loved. And Local Bistro, which he created, started the slow food fast trend in Warsaw. So this is the person who is responsible for practice, let's say, here in the panel. Then I warmly welcome Christopher Angel Bates, our own, and Professor Bates, he teaches here at the center. He has his BA in political science from Providence College, and MA in politics from University of Dallas, and PhD in political science from Northern Illinois. But he, in fact, got the idea to talk about burgers and hamburgers here. And he also had the wonderful idea that our students, BA Food Studies, conduct, too loud? Too loud? No. I'm always too loud. Conduct field research in hamburger joints in Warsaw. And I will introduce Anna Żywek, who is one of these students, in a second. The third panelist is Katarzyna Biernacka. She's a vegan and a board member, former president of Empathy, Polish Animal Rights Association. She translates and writes on veganism, animal rights, and relations between people and non-human animals. And I hope this will be our entry point to talk about the other burgers that I just had, because as you saw, there are two options: the vegetarian burgers during our lunch and meat burgers. So we're also going to try to critically talk about this. And then last but not least, Anna Żywek, again, a student here at the American Studies Center. She took our course in food studies.
She is taking our course.
Yes, yeah, of course. We are thinking about this conference as kind of, the peak of the course. But yeah, the course still has a few weeks to go. And ours means Paulina Kakarika, Marta Uszekniewicz, and me. And she's been a part of Professor Bates' team going around Warsaw and asking people owning or managing hamburger joints very uncomfortable questions about their trade. So here are the panelists, and I would like to start with a question. When we titled this panel "Hamburger Revolution in Warsaw," I don't know what we were thinking. But I would like to interrogate in this discussion all three parts of this title. Is it burger? Is it hamburger? And this brings us to a wide variety of what is on offer. Is the revolution about quantity? So how many options you have? Is it about quality? Is it about meat? Or is it about lifestyle? Or is it about popularization of veganism and vegetarianism? Because as some of you may know, Krowa Żywa won in some rankings of hamburger joints. So it's kind of, I want to open really this debate and not really foreclose this. And I would like to start this by, what you eat tells us who you are. So I would like to start asking our guests about the perfect burger. What is a perfect burger for each of you? This can be an imaginary burger. This can be a burger you had. This can be a burger you had in Warsaw. This can be a burger you will never have. Something like this. Why don't we just start right here?
Okay, the perfect burger for me is a beef burger. Just kidding. A first slow food burger which I made. It was really difficult because it was lots of time to find the proper people to create for first time the really good value bun. I try to find the best baker in Warsaw, and I find a guy with the over 100 years old oven, like a really old one. And I said, we need a proper flour, we need as much butter, not oil, butter, as much can put in this bun. We need yeast, and let's do it. We've done, I think, the perfect bun after 3 or 4 weeks experience. Next, beef, meat. So basically, in Poland, we don't have a history of eating the beef from the last 50 years. The beef is like, the common is like a milk-raised beef. So as soon as we start eat a proper beef, again proper, I mean meat race like Red Angus, Black Angus, Hereford, or Limousin, Charolais, even Wagyu. That's something changed, and I think that was the start of this history of basically the gastronomy started to change. Right. So we've got a bun, we've got a beef, leaves. I find a family of gardeners that got an organic garden, Jabłońscy. They live close to Warsaw, and it's a very nice family. So we start to cooperate. They've got like 20 of salads and I think 30 of kinds of herbs. So we mix that, and we've done lots of more and more work on it, but what I want to say, the most important of this burger was to meet those people and to have a contact with them, to sometimes even make a friendship, like I'm a really good friend with my butcher. And this is the one person in my life who's always late, and I'm not angry about him. So what I want to say, a perfect burger for me is a slow food burger with the contact with people who do the work, really good work. They are small producers, and this is a fun. It's only a burger, but it's something valuable. I will say one thing, you know, the burger is a really pop cultural thing. It's like, you know, everybody likes it and it's everywhere in the world. But that was the pretext or reason to take this thing and to make it really, really different. I mean, really valuable, really. I mean, in a soul of slow food. So that was a fun. Cheers.
Thank you.
I must say that burgers, well, not hamburgers for me, but burgers are a very interesting option, especially when you go out and want to have something quick and tasty to eat. So a perfect burger for me is definitely has to be something tasty, but it's not enough, of course. It has to be an animal-free meal. And I think that naturally a lot of people, when they think about burgers, they tend to think about cows that will go into the burger. But as it turns out, the practice shows, right? for example, Krowa Żywa, the restaurant which serves only vegan burgers, and won last year's ranking of burger restaurants in Warsaw. So the practice shows that it's possible to make a burger which is tasty, also for people who eat meat, and doesn't have any animal products in it. And I would like to say that it's very interesting because on the one hand, like you said, it's a pop cultural thing, and we like things that have a tradition, that are popular, that serve our habits, right? I think that we are used to, and at the same time, vegan burgers also serve today's needs. I mean, today's needs also in terms of the environment. And I think that it's interesting to say what Krowa Żywa actually means in Polish, because it's a play of words, right? It's, on the one hand, it's krowa, so there's this element of tradition in it, the cow. Then there's the warzywa, which means vegetables, and this is the true ingredient of these burgers sold in that place. And then again, you can have another game in this word. It's krowa żywa, so it means a live cow. So on the one hand, we sort of have this association with your tradition, and at the same time, we have a live animal. No animals have been hurt or harmed. So that's very interesting, and I think that this is a very nice way to continue a tradition without actually causing harm. And also, like I said, maybe you're not aware entirely of how much the food industry affects the environment. So what I'm going to say only is that the food industry, especially the livestock industry, is very detrimental to the environment. So I think that basically vegan burgers is a quite good idea of a combination of pop cultural tradition and the nutrients that we, with a growing global population, need.
Thank you.
What is perfect burger? I don't know.
Maybe use that because that's,
Oh.
for some reason,
Oh, that's-
the strength is dying down, I heard. Because the two microphones together cannot neutralize each other, so.
Okay, so perfect burger is American burger and with no weird ingredients like salmon or shrimps. Seriously, Burger Kitchen had burger with shrimps, and I don't know, it's weird for me. If I want to go and eat shrimps, I go and eat shrimps, not in my burger. I want to eat in my burger. I cannot imagine vegetarian burger. It's impossible for me. And what is also very important are buns. My favorite restaurant had awesome burgers, but then once I went there and they changed their buns, and I never went there again in my life because they changed it. And it's really important. Okay.
All right. Clifford?
The perfect burger. What is it?
Is it the one you made during our picnic?
No, I mean, let's be honest. I'm going to talk, as a political philosopher, I'm going to talk about the role of anamnesis, which is the active remembering of the past. And what eating serves two functions in our lives. One, it deals with our bodily needs, right? It deals with our bodily needs. And this is kind of the kind of necessary condition of eating. The other element of eating is in the element of living well, living beautifully, living the life in a way that is noble and just and true. Now, of course, you must understand that living well, living one's life well in that sense, therefore equates certain elements of what we think is just and what we think is great. That's why the question of vegetarian, if you believe that murdering animals or eating animals is genocide or something like that, of course, then you're gonna say, oh God, hamburgers, and everything like that is horrible, but we have different opinions about this. I think the idea that, in fact, this is what's great about the human being and human nature, is its heterodiversity of the understandings of what are the just and the good. In fact, if we have the element of, therefore, we must understand that human dignity and human freedom comes from the diversity of options, particularly in terms of our lifestyles and the way we live our lives. So homogeneity, or any attempt to impose a unitary will on us and our ways of life, is kind of oppressive. Now, the danger about this is the burger and globalization of the burger, right? We say, oh my God. But ironically, it's anamnesis, remembering of the things that are past. For me, the burger for me is the memory of my childhood, the remembering of my fellowships with friends, the associations I had eating a burger, of lunch. And the idea of the burger itself is quintessentially American in the sense, because of the way it came to be. The burger itself, of course, what is hamburger but is simply a very common food everywhere, every culture has it. But how it emerged in the way we now consume it is uniquely American. And it came out of the American experience of the immigrant culture, the Hamburger, the filet de Hamburger, right? And remember the anti-German attitude, you had to get rid of that. And therefore it was called Salisbury steak. The British had Salisbury steak. And what we consider the hamburger was simply just ground, because remember, beef was a rich man's food. So therefore, in a society like America, where egalitarian society, where it was a society aimed at just all people, and not just simply a society of class structures. The idea of having that the worker or those people could enjoy meat, so that and be affordable. This was in itself the idea. So that this was a way that not only just the wealthy and the middle classes could enjoy eating meat, but every man could enjoy eating meat. And the idea of the hamburger has profound, as we have to understand how it emerged as the hamburger we know today, we love, that are from American childhood memory, or everyone's childhood memories, is out of the process of it coming out of the working classes. It came out of the first burgers came out of the first diners. What were the first diners? Well, the diner experience in the United States emerged out of the worker experience, feeding the workers. Most businesses did not have canteens like the Germanic tradition, the Germanic European tradition of every owner had their canteen, and therefore you had the canteens or the milk kitchens, right? Therefore, burgers for us emerged out of, you needed a food that was warm, quick, and something that could be eaten relatively quickly. And therefore, the idea of the first burgers emerged in America, as we know, in the 1890s, particularly out of places like in New York City, what is the famous one, Louis Lunch, 1895, in New Haven, Connecticut. Then it was mass marketed, White Castle, 1921, the first mass marketing of it. Then Roy Koch, he took over a place called, McDonald's, right? McDonald's was originally was a hot dog joint, not a burger place. And it was Koch who turned idea, because what is the, you have to understand Ray Koch. He was a enlisted man in the Air Force, the Army Air Force in World War II.
I think it's really useful to return to Warsaw. Maybe we can kind of.
But I'm saying is that the whole idea of Warsaw, what burgers meant from a lot of people in Warsaw, originally, this is what some of the research purpose I took on to the discussion, was the idea that this was kind of a symbol of America for a lot of people. Burgers became the symbol in many ways.
Yeah, we'd like to talk about this too. Mm-hmm.
Of this element. In Warsaw, the funny thing was when I came here, when I first came in '99, burgers were horrible. You had to go to a very expensive restaurant, and even then it was really crappy.
And of course, here burger means Hamburger, right? In the 90s.
Yeah,
it's very important too. Mm-hmm.
And there were you had some places that were kind of okay, but like Javs with their imitation TGI Friday style, but even the quality of the meat was substandard. It was not always consistent.
And in the 90s, most
Yeah.
of them they were done with pork meat or chicken meat or something, you know, more like paper than the meat.
Maybe, thinking about, when the revolution started, we kind of, started talking about it. 90s are pre-revolutionary times, definitely. So maybe we can talk a little bit, when we think about what is available in Warsaw now, how did it start, or what can be kind of the first signs? And, this is also linked with the question, if you think about your perfect burgers, when did they start to be available? And maybe Anna and some, you can say a few things about the joints and the people you interviewed. How did it happen? When did it happen?
Okay, so the revolution happened like 3 years ago.
Well, three to five, yeah.
Yeah.
When it's, I think Burger Bar was one of the first ones. Burger Bar, what's it?
Anna?
No. We had some trouble.
Anna?
I don't know, should I say no?
No.
I don't know, I'm lost. Okay,
3 years ago.
yeah, 3 years ago, the first one that I interviewed was Burger Bar. Yes, am I right? And then, wait a second. Bobby Burger, and it's a chain, and it's huge, like it's everywhere, and it hires a lot of people, like, I don't know, 180 or something like this. And why does the revolution happen 3 years ago? Because of meat, now it's available, and because of European Union, that's what he told me. He taught me this, and
It's part of a hypothesis.
yeah.
Maybe I have to explain the hypothesis. Her answer will make more sense.
Quickly, yeah.
The hypothesis is simply this: that why did burgers happen now, not 10 years ago? Given that after the Cold War, not 10 years, 89, 91, 92, 93, why didn't given that the greater attractiveness of American culture was more stronger in the early 90s than now? Okay, we know this by opinion surveys about polls, attitudes, attractions.
So what is it about European Union? Because this may be...
What I'm saying is that the single market allowed people to go to England, work in England, and therefore they were introduced to short order cooking skills that was not practiced of this. Therefore, they got knowledge change.
Okay, so we have produce meat, we have knowledge.
And the meat changed also. The meat changed also because of Europeanization. Because, when you be careful, when you buy Italian pork, it's not really Italian, really. It's grown and made in Poland, then shipped live to Italy, which then they slaughter and cure it the way they do things. Again, Poland is one of the big producers, and this would not be possible without the Europeanization, the union, the market.
So produce, knowledge, and we have money.
The money. Because one of the things the European Union has done, particularly giving people skill sets and like this, is the grants, the system of grants. In the past 5 years ago, the European Union started a position of the small 10,000 zloty, basically 10,000 to 20,000 zloty grants to young entrepreneurs wishing to start a business. And therefore, my argument was that, to start a burger grill place, a quick burger thing, you only need a short, if you can get the equipment cheap, change the market, European market, it allows you to buy if you had the knowledge, and if you had some access to money, you could easily start some kind of small operation. You do it small, you start small, you wouldn't start big, you pick the mobile trucks, or, remember Warburger and Burger Bar both started in very low rent areas, okay?
All right, so I understand, this is the hypothesis, but, we can read the burger revolution as, achieving the American ideal, but maybe also the memory of childhood. We can read this trend as vegetarianism and then slow food movement. And maybe we can talk a little bit about burgers and kind of, when did it become available to eat your vegan burger?
Well, I wouldn't know really, actually, when it comes to vegan burgers. I suppose that vegetarian burgers were certainly earlier. that's for sure. And veganism is much earlier trend, much newer trend. And I suppose it's a question of the last 2 or 3 years, I would think.
So it looks like that the two may coincide in a way. What about slow food burgers?
Slow food burgers.
When was it? I mean, you told us a story.
Yeah.
When was this happen?
3 years ago. Yeah, we started to do something like that. But I think from the beginning of Solid, so that's going to be 4 years right now. We started doing the burgers, and that was like, you know, I'll add some different reasons why they become so popular. I think we start as long as we've got some kind of middle class. We start to need some kind of middle class food too. I mean, places like that. In the past, we had just restaurants, which were more or less fancy. But opposite, where you had like, you know, bars with really crappy food. So that was like, you know, huge space. Yeah. And to fill it in some point. So burgers were perfect for it. I mean, I will repeat that everybody loves burgers, and that's the truth. It's a perfect match of, it's kind of sandwich and with beautiful piece of meat or whatever. That's the definition of burger for me. It's really, really open. I have to say, I've done a few vegetarian and vegan burgers in my life. I've done a burger of cod with fried sauerkraut with caraway seeds. I've done a burger of common carp, with fried kale and a sauce of smoked prunes.
So is this a Polish-American burger?
I think that was the taste of the, you know,
Polish.
It's very Polish. I mean,
Oh, in a bun, you know.
But yeah, so I mean, we can do everything with this right now. Classical, it always gonna be a proper beef burger, but I'm always open for all of the ideas.
Could you tell us what goes into a vegetarian burger? I mean, what is the patty made of? Because some people may not be, or what could it be?
You know,
made?
it's like you can put everything. Yeah, but to be honest, okay, we've done not a vegetarian one of cheese, and we find with Kasia cheese from Słupsk. It's a Polish camembert made from beginning of 20th century, so it's over 100 years tradition, and we fried all camembert and put in a burger. That was a huge portion, but really, really nice. But you know, you can play with everything. You can do it. I don't really like it.
Which one was that? I think that people heard it.
No, soy. One of the first fake vegetarian burgers that were.
Yeah.
I think I specialize in more, not maybe on the practical side, but on the consumer side. So I think the burger which is the most popular with people who eat meat, I think it's seitan. It's made of wheat. It's called, I don't know, wheat meat, something like that, because you can, there is a specific way of doing it. I'm not going to tell you the exact way of doing it because I've never done it, I've only eaten it. So it does taste like meat, and there is a lot of people who eat meat and have tried it, like in Caravaggio, for instance, and I think this is one of the most popular. And there's also quite a number of burgers that you can make of I don't know, chickpeas or beans, something like that. So I think that's the most popular.
I remember a vegan burger made of butter beans with mint.
Thank you. Alexander, you started talking about the class factor, and basically the idea that there was money suddenly here, so there was need for spending it in a way that would indicate your status maybe too. So this brings us kind of to the question, burger trend. What kind of trend is this? Who produces hamburgers and burgers? Who eats burgers, hamburgers? What kind of sandwich is this? How different is this from, how different are burger eaters from kebab eaters or Subway sandwiches eaters? Is there, is this a particular group? And here we can talk both about producers and consumers. Professor Bates, maybe we can just...
Well, let me answer the question quickly, because I think it's a threefold issue. One, it is a middle class situation, the growing middle class. That's rebelling against kind of, in Poland, it's actually rebelling against, a poor service industry. Restaurants in Poland restaurants in Poland still are way far less consumer-oriented in their behavior than anywhere else. And I know people in the market, I know people in the industry, foreigners who are in the industry, and they just, they say it's very easy for them to get to succeed here because if you had any training in the West or the European, like Britain or things like this, you just become a champion here. Because of the idea of customer care and the idea of serving customers and the customers first principles. Now, the middle class issue is something more different. I think it's an education issue. It's not necessarily money. I think what's happening is that there's an element, and I think this, my partner is kind of like that. She's college educated, university educated, not probably, technical, professional middle class. Right? She would never go to McDonald's. She would look at McDonald's as, oh God. It's something that you wouldn't, it's a verboten place, okay? It's maybe verboten for, maybe the question of quality of food, the food quality issues, the concern about things like not only status, but also the quality. It's something that's not mass-produced, it has some care to it. It's not something that's just processed in artificial way. There's some aesthetic to it as well. There's some look to the food, and I think this is therefore it represents the younger generation that's emerging after the end of communism that is trying to assert itself and wants to basically have something different than what they remember from their childhood. It's a rebellion against limited options.
Anna, can you say something about the price of burgers in Warsaw today? What's the average price? What's the, or maybe prices? What's the range?
It depends, because many restaurants offer like double burger, and then you have to add like 3 extra zloty or something like this.
So 3 extra zloty to, what would be the base?
I think single burger with no extras is like 12 zloty. From 12 to 15 zloty, something like this.
And under 20. She's right about 12. I've seen as low as 12. No, low as 12. I've seen a couple of. I've not seen anything lower than 12, but I've seen most of them around 17, 18. That's the standard fare. It's a burger. Not one of the high specialties. But then the average is like 25, right? 20, 25 for the more specialized burgers that they. Yeah, the numbers.
Let's continue about trans lifestyle and maybe a few things again about vegetarianism and veganism.
I will maybe refer to what I heard earlier about food, meaning not only feeding ourselves, but also about living well, about our identity, and about our habits, and so on. I think it's very important, and I think many activists, me included, are aware of that. And what we are trying to promote is not food that is entirely strange to people, but food which is, on the one hand, meets the ethical criteria, but on the other hand, which looks and tastes familiar. And I think there's a lot of such food, and burgers in Warsaw is just an example. There are many other foods, vegan foods, which look and taste very similar to what we are used to. And I think it's very important that this kind of food exists because it can bring together our ethical needs and our simple needs of us as animals who have habits. And we're like, sometimes I think that we're slaves of our habits. And so it's important to also face this simple truth. And like these burgers, vegan burgers, is just an example of a very nice way of trying to solve these issues. So this is one of these things like lifestyle and our habits.
Thank you so much. Before we open discussion to you, our audience, I would like to have the kind of the last round talking about Warsaw in Hamburger, or Burger Revolution in Warsaw. Do you think there is something special about Warsaw? How do Warsaw burger joints compare to your other experiences abroad or in other places? I mean, if we think about slow food movement or the real American burger or vegan and vegetarian places, is there anything special about Warsaw, kind of landmark Warsaw thing? We can pass it along.
I've lived here only for 3 years, so I don't know very much about Warsaw. I think Warsaw is special in the sense that it's a big city. And there's always a difference between big cities and small villages in terms of availability of food, in terms of the competition between restaurants, and then the quality of service, like you said, and so on. So I suppose that the bigger the city, probably the more similar it is to other cities in other countries. That's my impression.
Any Caribbean burgers in your experience?
To be honest, two Caribbean burgers in my life, and they were not so nice. I remember the burgers from Britain, and I mean, right now I cannot see the difference. I mean, like maybe it's happened in Poland so fast, so we start to develop more things, and that's probably it. So it's more bright, it's more
fresh.
It's fresh, yeah. But I didn't have a burger in Krakow, I didn't have a burger in Łódź and Poznań, so I cannot say nothing more. I haven't been in a burger place about my solids from probably over a year, so I cannot say nothing else. I mean, I'm really curious, is the kind of trend which will survive for the next few years or 10 years. And probably yes, I mean, it's probably gonna be still the same. I mean, 15 years ago we had a kebab everywhere. We've still got a kebab everywhere, and we've still got the people eating kebab. So probably, yeah, we will have burgers for the next many years, because they're good and tasty.
Anna,
Okay.
Anna, anything special about Warsaw that maybe
No.
you learned from your...
No, I don't think so. I mean, burger is American, so why would we make it Polish? We try, we do something like rural burger with osypek or something like this, but not anything specific about Warsaw. What would it be?
Well,
Clifford, what do you think?
see, I'm looking at this. She's doing. Let's be honest. She's doing it for both her own interest, but also interviewing people. So that's why her focus is more narrow. And I'm going to be talking more broader. Okay. I think the big issue here is from the point of view of the information and stuff so far.
Sure, yeah.
Why Warsaw? Warsaw's. I think this is the issue that if you saw even kebab the Vietnamese and kebab revolutions earlier, the trend was it started in Warsaw first, and then it took about 6 to 8 years later before it started popping elsewhere. And it followed as the disposable income, and people could afford to go spend so much money. And I think this is the thing, is that Warsaw has a higher level of disposable income. People in Warsaw usually have higher earnings. They will have at least 20-30% higher earning level, and therefore have about a 15 to 18% higher disposable income level. And that matters in the ability of the burger restaurant. Because if you can't spend, the burger revolution really means, in this sense, the idea that you can get a burger that is not McDonald's. In other words, quality. That you can go enjoy, you're going to get a burger that is going to be good quality, that tastes well, that is, and you're not going to have problems with your stomach, or you're going to, it's good quality, and also you're able to kind of just, not go broke with other things. Like if you go to a restaurant. If you had to go to let's say Hard Rock, I think Hard Rock changed everything in Warsaw. I think
In what way?
because you got introduced to Angus burgers and things like this that weren't common. TGI Friday's burger was a simple cheeseburger. Okay, before Hard Rock Cafe, the best you could get would be I used to hate going to burgers at the Marriott. Because why? They were dry. They were just like, in fact, I started a tradition at the center about 6 years ago. The hamburger tradition, having the outside burger thing. And I'd have to go buy tartar, because you had to get, because you couldn't get good ground beef. You had to go get tartar, and then you'd have to cook it and grill it. That's the other thing, grilling it, not pan frying it. And this is the problem with restaurants. Most restaurants still, if you go to most Polish restaurants, it's a normal kitchen. Mm-hmm. It's most Polish restaurants are not professional kitchens.
Do you think the proper burger is grill fried or?
I think it's stronger grilled because it's meat is better grilled from that point of view. Okay. And I think that the grilled hamburgers are healthier in that sense. That's the saturated fats would be less attentive, and also it reflects our primal natures as hunter-killers. Our human beings are how to say are hunting animals in our evolutionary
hunting-gathering.
What?
Hunting-gathering.
No. Hunting-gathering, yes, but
All right.
but more hunting.
Elizabeth, would you like to comment? Or we are giving over to the audience. Do you have any comments? What Pippa said?
Oh, I just wanted to emphasize hunting gathering.
Thanks so much. Alexander, any final comments?
I think the best burgers are made in a sizzling plate.
Okay, you're sizzling plate.
What's the secret of the really good beef burger? It's a fat.
Yep.
Burger must be 20% fat, at least 20%.
I'm a little less. I'm the opposite school. I'm from Texas. I'm not from Texas, but I'm not from Texas. I'm a Rhode Islander. So, but I learned to love burgers and meat only after going to Texas. And the idea that eating meat more rare, more quality of that. Fat, therefore, if you're eating it rare, then you don't want fat. If you're going to have medium rare meat, you don't want fat in it. If you're going to have it medium and well done, you can have fat in it. It doesn't, but
Thank you so much. So why don't you, if you have any burger stories, if you have any questions, comments, it's time to go now.
Hi, I want to counter the Marriott story. Yeah. And I just offer this anecdote from early time when you were still in the U.S. Army, and I came back to Poland, to Warsaw, in 1990. Okay, and the only place I came with my children, And my children had nostalgia for hamburgers, and there was nowhere to have no hamburgers here. And Marriott was the only place where you could get for enormous amount of money a pretty good hamburger, as far as I can see, because I didn't eat it. But my kids liked it very much.
Well, the choice is between nothing and something, not something wins, right?
But this time it was high quality, and perhaps it just went down since.
Well, recently I've read about a burger joint in Poznań that serves burgers not in a bun, but in lettuce leaves. So I'd like to ask, I know Mr. Barnes said that he's open to such experiments, but I'd like to ask other speakers what do they think about this.
Lettuce.
Doesn't would you like to go? Lettuce?
I don't think anything in particular.
Okay. Anybody about lettuce?
I mean, the problem.
It's a carbless. I mean, it's perfect for some people, and to be honest, at time to time, I prefer a burger without a bun. So I'm able to eat 2 burgers.
Well, if you're gonna have a fatty burger, if you're gonna have a relatively high 20% fat burger, eating it in a bun kind of becomes kind of useful because the bread kind of absorbs the fat, whereas salad leaks right out. It's going to be a messy thing, you know. Eating salad, you know, it's worse than having lettuce leaves. It'd be worse than what do you call those things? Kebabs, because next thing you know, you're going to have it all over you. So I think it's a question of some kind of new trend. It's an interesting idea. It reflects the diversity, and probably they can't get buns. Really. I mean, one of the biggest problems here that I've noticed with burger places is the problems of buns. And the good burger places are able to get buns. Like one of the interesting ones is the kitchen place. Not kitchen. We didn't interview them. They didn't interview them. It was called Christian's Baker House. Where the guy himself makes his own buns, and that degree, he has a bakery himself, and he makes his own buns, and he has basically a hamburger. He's a normal restaurant, but he also kind of had the hamburger. So we kind of excluded him from the survey because we didn't want to target normal restaurants. But then you have, you know, the joke about this. You have Burger Kitchen dumping the name burger. Right? That's the big story for this year, is that Burger Kitchen guy who, you know, apparently won a lot. Apparently, you know, there's so many competitions for the best burger in Warsaw all of a sudden, and different places have it. You know, the Warsaw Insider actually started one of the first magazines about four years ago. Started it, and I think you won. Didn't you know? Wasn't it your local bistro, right? Yeah. So I think you won
in the past.
In the past,
yeah.
And I would love to know the story of what happened to that one, because that was one of our favorite places. And then you left, and we got bought out, and then it went to crap. You know, it just.
What would be real street food?
When you're going to Asia, you've got a real street food, something which is on the street, and it always been there. We take the business models because we don't have a history of the street food, and it's okay. I mean, it's normal, but I think it's a huge difference.
Will you just answer the question that we have? There was a question about the chains and vegetarian.
Yeah, I think I'm going to answer your question rather quickly, and I would like to refer also to the question about whether burgers will survive. So, as far as burgers in McDonald's, I mean vegan burgers in McDonald's or burger joints in general, I think that it's a very positive trend. The more vegan food there is available in many places, the better, simply. Because then the more available such food is, the more consumer-friendly veganism becomes. It's very simple. And about the survival of burgers, I think I would like to paint a slightly bigger picture. Maybe I'm going to sound a little bit pathetic, but I would like to paint it like with the closure of the discussion. So when I'm thinking about meat, of course I think about animals, naturally. That's what I do as an activist, but I also think about the environment. And I do read reports regarding the relations between the food industry, especially the livestock industry, and the environment. And I would like to read like 2 sentences from a UN report, United Nations report, which is called Assessing the Environmental Impacts of Consumption and Production, 2010. There are more of such reports, but I'm not going to bore you with a lot of them. So the conclusion is here about agriculture, right? So impacts from agriculture are expected to increase substantially due to population growth, and the expectations for population growth are 9 billion people in 2050. And so it's one thing, population growth, and another thing, increasing consumption of animal products in developing countries, as you can imagine, and also sustaining the consumption of animal products in Western countries. And a substantial reduction of these impacts, which are very serious impacts on the environment, would only be possible with a substantial worldwide diet change away from animal products. And I think it's a very strong conclusion. So actually, we may think about the future of burgers as also in terms of our future as the global population and environmental crisis, actually. So that's what I wanted to say about the burgers.
So we really want burgers, vegetarian burgers in McDonald's.
Because there are none. That's why I'm asking, because there's
Yeah.
not.
We really
You
want
cannot
them.
buy them, so I'm not asking if you want them, but if it's possible to have them.
I don't know because I don't visit McDonald's, but I think I would welcome that.
Let's write a letter. All right, Clifford, would you comment on the questions?
Well, there's several questions. One, the one about the burger surviving. First of all, we have to understand there was kind of a burger bubble. And the burger bubble happened because of the original revolution was basically, was street food and slow food. It was kind of a quasi-street food, slow food rebellion, and also counterculture, as Ivana raised the question about that if you go to like Warburger, or you go to even a burger bar, or even Hamburger, they will often not have, originally for a long time they didn't have Coke, or Pepsi. They would have Fritz Cola or alternative colas, and therefore the perception was that they were not going to be embracing that. Now, of course, because their consumers said, "Oh, I want a Coke, please get Coke," so that some of them kind of caved into getting it. But they still have a vast. They put first and foremost the alternative element. So there's kind of like this idea of an alternative local. I'm going to buy local. I'm going to buy. Not go to McDonald's, not go to Burger King, not go to these foreign, these chains that represent but local people, small, that's one element. The second thing is the burger bubble happened because the business people saw there's money here, let's go make a thing. My favorite example of this is Burger Mama. Burger Mama is a perfect example of a chain that came into the market just at the beginning of the bubble. Now it's losing, it's showing they had 3 stores, right?
Yeah, right now too.
They have 2 right now, and probably they're going to close down to 1. Now, Bobby Burger is not having that problem. Bobby Burger is actually going to expand, correct? I think they're planning on expanding. Burger Kitchen, in the May issue of the Insider, they tell the story of Burger Kitchen, right? Burger Kitchen is dropping the word burger, and it's going to become a restaurant, okay? Because why? He wants to go beyond burgers. He wants to, burgers was his kind of entry point into catching people's attention. And now, since he has a clientele, he's now going to expand it. In fact, the picture has the element. It's funny, a burger place, right? Now the picture is what? Pasta. Okay, he's gonna have pasta. Okay, again, this is an element of how the burger revolution died. Now, the burger revolution died. I think burgers will stay, but I think the bubble has burst. And the bubble has burst because I think the Me Too places couldn't keep the customer happy. The customer, I think the consumer of burgers are going to, and particularly slow food burgers, or these kind of burgers, it's a much more demanding client. He's not going to be, he or she is not going to be happy with the burger being so-so, or dry, or not cooked right, or the quality bun being poor quality, or mass market buns, or the quality of meat being kind of just, and I think what's happening is,
Or just meat.
not even meat. No, I think the problem is that even if it's the non-just meat ones, I think that's a niche market. That is a niche market. Even no matter how much you're going to do it, say to increase demand of it. I don't think the vegetarian burger place is going to disappear. Simply, it won't disappear because that niche is, that niche is such it has no one else satisfying it. Okay, and that's why the secret of Fox News. Fox News survived.
Oh, let's not go there.
No.
We need to wrap up. Once we start talking about Fox News, there's no ending to this.
No, what I'm saying is a niche market for a customer base that's not being served is a very important place. Once you can serve a market that's not being served, right, that you'll make money, you'll stay in business for a long time. And therefore, that's a very important thing of why I think the vegetarian burger places are not going to disappear at all. In fact, there'll probably be one or two more, and they'll probably also expand in quality. Then what's happening, the competition between them will be a question of who can do the best job. Whereas the burger places, what killed them is, of course, customer service. If you couldn't keep them, right next to us, Hamburger. Hamburger was a place on Novodvorska that was at first very good.
That's the last story.
And what happened was it died. Now it's closed. A year later, it's closed. Now the question is, what happens here is that you're going to have a lot of places coming onto the trend. Now the trend is now more sophisticated, and they're not going to make money on it. The guys who want to come into it have to be able to say, okay, I can make a profit on it. The problem here is that you're not going to make a profit when Warsaw is increasing the rents in the buildings and things like that. The city made the rent increase so high that small places, if you're not anywhere in the center area, you can't afford to stay in business anymore. So therefore, the small business model is dead in the center.
All right, let's wrap up. Let's enjoy the trend. Let's enjoy the trend when it still lasts, and you can get a lot of it. Thank you very much for your questions. Thanks to the panelists. This was a great discussion.